Hello my lovelies, I hope you're all well. Now, we are in a cost of living crisis, both here in the UK and across the pond for my American friends. So I thought that we might watch a little video here, which is the average cost of groceries in Britain versus America. Okay, let's see how much we're getting ripped off then, shall we? But do you think you'll be worse off, or do you think I'll be worse off? We'll find out.
Is it bog? Can I say bog?
Bog standard.
So I'm currently standing here at a bog standard British supermarket, that is a Sainsbury's, the local edition, because this is a place where a large percentage of the British people are currently going to buy their groceries. And with the cost of inflation on the rise, with the cost of literally all goods going up more and more and more,
Everything.
I wanted to see what is the cost of an average shop at your local store in the UK, and possibly compare it to how our friends across the pond in America are currently doing with their grocery shops. So,
Intriguing.
without further ado, let's get some food.
All right, so I am finally back
With a
from
Morrison's bag.
Sainsbury's with a meal deal in hand, using, of course, a reusable bag from Morrison's because I care about the environment. So today we're going to be looking at, like I said, the difference in price between the standard groceries you can get in the UK versus the US. Having grown up in the US and spending, to this point, the majority of my life there, I'm pretty well aware of what prices things normally are. And from my experience, I always felt like it was always more expensive to just buy groceries than it was to get a takeaway or a delivery or something like that.
Really?
But hey, depends on what you're getting, and I think the data will speak for itself pretty much. And if you are new here, hi, my name is Evan Ettinger, an American-born.
I must admit though, the few times I've been across to America, it has been very cheap to eat out. So, and I went to a Whole Foods, and I know that Whole Foods is massively overpriced, but yeah, that was very expensive to shop there.
YouTuber who likes making videos on interesting things. Also, he has a master's degree in actuarial science. I'm saying this because it explains my love for mathematics. Today's video is quite mathy.
I hate
Let's
maths.
dive on in. Also, if you like this style of content, please be sure to give that subscribe button a little toggle. Anywho, so groceries. In order to make this as fair as possible, I looked at 2 different stores in the US and 2 different shops in the UK, trying to make it as uniform as possible.
Good.
I also made sure that certain items were judged by the price per kilogram as opposed to just the price. So that way, of course, if something was 550 grams and something was 300 grams, we can actually see the overall cost per kilogram and see which one was more expensive. Also, using Google Spreadsheets' automatic conversion algorithms, I was able to make an entire column just for Americans to understand everything in the dollar value, and also everything in pounds for Brits. Now in the UK corner, we're looking at a Sainsbury's/Tesco, because I believe these are pretty middle of the line shops. And also, they're all over the entirety of the UK.
True.
In the US, we're looking at an Acme/ShopRite. And if you're American going, I've never heard of those, I'm
I've never
fairly
heard of
certain
them
there
either.
aren't any fully national grocery food chains in the States. There might have
not?
some that are like taking up a huge majority of the West Coast or East Coast, like Safeway or Trader Joe's and whatnot. But
I suppose, like the US being as huge as it is with all of those states, it would be quite tricky to have a shop in every state. More than one.
my Jersey heritage. So we're going with ShopRite and Acme.
Yes.
All right, I split this up into a couple different sections with the standard groceries. We got fruit and veg, and then we got some meats and other things like that. In the UK, you can expect to spend about £1.20 for your standard loaf, no fancy, no seeds of bread.
Actually, that seems a bit expensive. But then he did go to Sainsbury's and Tesco's, and I predominantly shop in Lidl. And Lidl is a German supermarket chain that, along with Aldi, another German supermarket chain, have kind of taken the UK by storm because they're so cheap. So I wouldn't expect to pay more than £1 for a loaf of bread.
In the US, the equivalent cost in dollars is $3.84, or in pounds, that's £3.32, a 2.7 times increase over the cost of a...
Hold on. You're paying over £3 for a loaf of bread? Like standard white bread? Jesus Christ.
loaf of bread for the same equivalent grammage
Wow.
in the UK. Grammage. My grandma bought this loaf of bread and it was 2.7 times more expensive back in her day. Porridge oats, or oatmeal, standard kilogram box of porridge oats is gonna cost you about £1.95 in the UK. Get you a nice amount of
Don't buy it,
porridge.
so.
In the US, that's £4.71.
Oh my
the equivalent
God.
of $5.45 for a kilogram of oatmeal. Yet again, we're over 2 times more expensive.
And you know what? They're both Quaker. They're both Quaker oats. It's the same brand. It's the same oats. You're getting ripped off.
For this standard grocery. Next up, we've got cornflakes. These exist in both countries. No crazy cereals. No, we're not talking about any
cereal.
like Jolly Rancher or Sour Patch Kids
God,
cereal in the
that's
US.
gross.
Standard cornflakes. In the UK, of course, if you want a big box of this
That is a
terrible
big box.
anti-masturbatory cereal, it's gonna cost you £2. It's pretty standard. It's cornflakes. You're not paying much for cornflakes. In the US, it is £5.59.
Oh my
$6.46 for a box of cornflakes.
Over £5.
Cornflakes. This is one of those that I was like, is it really that expensive? And then I remembered, yes, I loved cereal growing up in the States, and I always expected to pay about $4.50 for a small box, or for the cornflakes, something like that size,
No.
about $6. So I just didn't realize how
Wow.
much I was really saving on groceries
No wonder people eat out so much.
living in the UK. On basic things. Moving on, we got 500 grams of rice. This one was actually quite close. Only 10% more expensive
well, there you
in
go.
the US. Still more expensive, but you know, not as
much,
bad.
though.
1.26 times more expensive in the States for the equivalent amount of butter. Moving on to 4 pints of whole milk. If you're wondering why I'm measuring 4 pints of whole milk, the UK is an absolutely batshit measuring thing in which they go somewhat metric and then they go back to imperial, but in a weird way, where instead of just saying a gallon or quarts or something like that, they just go with 4 pints. Might as well just say 8 cups. I don't know. Half gallon.
we can.
Ring a bell, anyone? 2 quarts? I don't know.
No, we don't.
Either
we
way,
don't,
so the equivalent
we
amount.
don't do gallons unless you're talking about miles per gallon of fuel. But no, we don't measure in gallons and quarts and things like that. We do pints and litres.
Milk, a standard thing that most people pick up during their grocery shop. We're looking at £3.10 in the US. Yet again, more than double the UK amount of £1.45.
Wow.
Switching over to dollars, that's the equivalent of paying
I mean,
$1.
we do spend more on our milk in my house because we buy the lactose-free milk, which contains the lactase enzyme, because we find we bloat less. So we do end up spending maybe £1.50 on that milk. So it's a bit more expensive, but it's all good.
For a half gallon of milk. So far, we've not really seen any big W's coming out the US, but that's about to change with cheddar cheese.
Oh,
550
you've got
grams.
cheaper cheese,
No,
have you?
actually, very close though. Only 16% more expensive in the States. So you could write that off as a little bit of variance. That's fine. A dozen medium eggs, £2.30 for a standard dozen versus £3.02 in the States. So for my standard dry good groceries, it looks like the UK is a resounding win with a significant decrease in the price of groceries. Now moving on to fresh fruit and veg. First up is an onion, or rather onions per kilogram. Per kilogram, you're looking at 85 pence for a kilogram of onions. Of course, they're cheap onions. Except in the States, you're looking at an equivalent of £3.79. We're looking at 4.46 times the price.
Just for
Nearly
onions.
4.5 times more money for a bag of onions. And it gets worse if you only want to buy a couple onions. I knew this because when I visited the States in February, I wanted to buy one onion for a dish and it cost $1
Oh my God.
for one onion. In the UK, that's the equivalent of buying a whole kilogram of them. It's crazy. And then, finally, we get our first W. USA. We win on the tomatoes, okay? We got some Vine Fresh tomatoes. The US pays 17% less. Hell yeah.
Wow.
Now, to be fair, this is a bit of an outlier because this is coming from a New Jersey location. And New Jersey is known for our Jersey Fresh tomatoes. The best tomatoes you can get anywhere in the world. So you'd think because they're so incredibly good and delicious in the Garden State, they'd be more expensive, but no, everyone's growing them. We got them all over the place. So congrats, we got cheaper tomatoes. Next up, Pink Lady apples, the creme de la crêpe. Yes, another win for the US.
Wow.
2% cheaper, but we will take our W's. Now, bananas per kilogram are 78 pence in the UK. You can buy them for at this point, freaking 30 pence per. But I digress. For the US, it's not that bad. At £1.12 is the equivalent amount, so only 1.5.
I actually bought a banana the other day for my daughter when we were in Marks and Spencer, and it cost me 14 pence for one banana. 14 pence. So cheaper than he thought.
Expensive. I'm saying only, but at this point, these are all starting to add up. And this one blew me away the most. A kilogram of carrots will set you back 45 pence, nearly 50 cents. However, In the US, for that equivalent, you're paying £1.88. Yet again, over 4 times the cost for carrots. And at this point, it's starting to get really freaky because the US, especially like California, has so many farms, huge swathes of land. We have so much more land. You could argue we have more people, and so therefore we have more demand. For some reason, I feel like something else is afoot here as well. Like, it just seems wild that all of this is more expensive, except of course the Jersey Fresh and the apples. Next up, standard raisins. Standard bag of raisins are 2 times more expensive in the US. A cucumber, 1.5 times more expensive. Same thing for a can of chopped tomatoes, 1.5 times more expensive. A kilogram of potatoes are so cheap. A kilogram bag is 83 pence in the UK. The US is 3.5 times more expensive. We're looking at over $3 for a kilogram of potatoes. Lord have mercy. We did have 2 wins for this section of fresh fruit and veg, but now I think there might be a bit more perspective here on why there's so much processed foods in the US, because if you can believe it, a lot of those are a lot cheaper than buying all of these fresh vegetables.
I believe
Just buy a box, add a couple things to it. Bon appetit. You save a bit of money, not as good for you. And finally, our last section here is going to be the meat of...
Sacrifice your health for a bit of a saving.
The meat. Going into this, I really expected the UK's to be more expensive for meats, because God, is it expensive to buy standard mincemeat and chicken and such at the local stores. But mincemeat, holy crap, £1.69 for the UK equivalent weight, £5.99.
What?
Holy 3.5 times for meat. Wow.
What?
I don't know how much I'd eat meat if it was that expensive, to be honest with you. Chicken breast, 650 grams, 1.3 times more expensive in the US. Okay, that's not so bad considering mincemeat was that big. Smoked bacon, very close, nearly 1 to 1, 250 versus 256. That can change depending on how far the pound has been dropping recently. So if we're to add all these up, the cost of your total grocery shop in the UK would be £48.88, whereas the US equivalent is £88.69. Over $100 for a standard grocery shop, which blows me away. Back when I used to shop at Lidl all the time, I would marvel at how many things I'd shove in my cart and it would still come out to just about 20 quid. And I was like, hell yes. But Jesus, I just can't imagine a standard grocery shop being $100. Of course, this is just a couple samples taken. It's not like a sample across all of the US and all of the UK. And sure, if you're always used to paying 1.8 times what the UK is, you're not necessarily going to notice as big a difference. You don't have anything to compare it to necessarily while you've always been in the US. But sales tax is also a thing in quite a few states. 13 states actually charge their citizens tax on basic groceries. Tennessee charges 4%. So that $100 shop has an extra $4 tacked on top that you aren't really probably budgeting for, and then that adds up every single shop. What the? Why have I just changed flannels? Oh, I must have changed my shirt location when I was changing my browsing location with today's video sponsor, NordVPN. Fun fact, I couldn't actually do this video if I didn't have NordVPN. Why? Well, I wanted to check the prices of different things. Further ado, let's switch back into my other clothes. Either way, data is data. You can extrapolate from it what you will. So tell me below what your thoughts are on this whole type of situation. Is your country a bit worse with this? I know, for instance, Switzerland has it really bad when it comes to taxes and such. So maybe any Swiss people in the comments want to chime in about what their standard grocery shop looks like. If these prices seem outlandish if you convert to euros, tell me below. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. You can subscribe and ring my bell to get new videos every Sunday in your feed on something interesting.
Just going to read the comments, some of the comments quickly, and this person makes a good choice. He said, most of the items you chose in the UK were premium brands. I'd love to see this comparing basic brands. Probably would be more jarring, yeah. As a South African, we were terrified of what it was going to cost to feed us when we went over to the UK a few years ago. I was blown away to realise that even with the conversion on the currency, I was able to feed us for under what we budget at home. Wow, so we're even cheaper than South Africa. Cool. I'm in Southern California and I'm shocked at the US prices he's showing. I never pay that much for food. I mainly buy from Costco and Aldi and ethnic stores. Yeah, I mean, he did say that they were just Jersey stores. Someone said the price has more than doubled in the US over the last couple of years. Many generic brands have just disappeared. I bought 2.5 pounds of grapes at the grocery store. It was almost $14 for the bag. Do you know, I would just go without the grapes. I would go without the grapes. I'm American, but I've lived overseas for about 20 years. I've always experienced sticker shock when I've visited my relatives in the States. But this year I was floored by the increases that have occurred. Wow, yeah. And he actually cut his visit short, he says, because of the cost. Wow. Well, that was certainly a very interesting video. And yes, people will nitpick about the fact that he used Jersey stores and premium brands and all that stuff. But were you shocked? I was shocked. I mean, I knew groceries were pretty expensive in the States, but I didn't realise that you were paying that much more. And obviously it's been a few years since I've been out to the States. When was the last time I was out there? 2015 was the last time I was in America. So yeah, it's been a while. But yeah, even then, groceries were very expensive. But wow, I'm shocked that we basically won like 99% of that. Obviously, this is a pretty recent video as well. He put this up 2 months ago. So it's taken into account the recent cost of living hikes. But things have still been going up. So it's all very worrying, isn't it? But I hope that you are managing to cope with the rise of the cost of living and everything. Our fuel and that seems to be going down at the moment, but well, certainly diesel does anyway. Diesel is going down at the moment, so hopefully it continues on that trajectory. But oh, it is a worrying time. But yes, I hope you're doing okay, and I'll see you very soon.